always appreciate the opportunity to get up here and visit with you all. But before I get there, Marissa was introduced as with the State Chamber, but more importantly, she's my wife. I don't have a marketing department, so I didn't have a speech prepared, but she told me what to say, so we're okay. But she travels the state and deals with local chambers all around the state, so she gets a perspective from rural Oklahoma, urban Oklahoma, and Tulsa, Oklahoma City, and all parts in between. So she's a good barometer on what's going on around the state to be able to feed back to me to say, hey, y'all are way off track here or there. But Jason failed to do it, but I will do it on his behalf since I'm such a good friend. His beautiful wife, Lori, is here as well. Me and a few other guys were helping Jason in his first election, and I realized that Jason is probably the most serious, most studious candidate and elected official I've ever been around. But his wife is even more of both of those things, and she was very instrumental in him getting there, and has been very instrumental in his service. This session, this is my fourth session, and it's been the most stressful session that I've been a part of as a legislator or a staffer. I was a staffer prior to being in the legislature. We had so many issues that rose to public attention, public outcry, in the very first few weeks in the state Senate. We had national popular vote come up, we had stuff with Common Core come up, and just a bunch of controversial issues that are weighty issues that you can't just take a surface look at and make a gut reaction and just say, yes, I'm for it, no, I'm against it. There are some real consequences to your decisions. So this session didn't allow for much sleep in the Treat household because there were a lot of issues that really took a lot of my time. One of them was with Kathy, and we ended up on the opposite side of each other on a zoning issue, a city zoning issue. But we're going to come back next session. I want to work with you on it because what we did is City of Oklahoma City, Midwest City, Del City, Bartlesville, Bethany was looking at it some as well, had some property registration issues where if there was abandoned or neglected property, they had to register it. The bill that I ran this year ended up disallowing those type of registries to require payment for those, and many municipalities are upset with me. I tried to work with people on it. We had a meeting where I was barely able to walk. Kathy was there, and I don't think I made any sense. But we tried to work out the deal. At the end of the day, I had a piece of legislation that was one step away from going to the governor's desk, and we decided to pass it as is. And then I've already been talking to some mayors around the state about how can we make sure the pendulum didn't go too far the other way. So that piece of legislation is not done. I still believe very strongly in private property rights, and I feel what I did was right, but I also feel there is some room for us to be able to work together with the communities around the state. So I know several of you in here were impacted by that. I wanted to get that out of the way so you didn't get me afterwards and slash my tires. But the big deal, multi-year, that Representative Nelson and I have been involved in is reform of our DHS system. He's really led the charge, and I've come in and tried to support him as much as I can on the Senate side. The pro tem of the Senate appointed me to oversee reform of DHS. I would like to say everything is rosy, but I can't report that to you today. When you have broken families and you have disruptions in the family unit, it's never going to be pretty. It's never going to be perfect. As long as we live in a fallen world, we're going to have broken families, and we're going to have to do something about it as a society. So our DHS system historically has done a terrible job, in my mind, of fulfilling that need. Jason stepped to the forefront, as he does on many controversial issues. Before I was there with the interim study, and we've implemented many of those ideals, but we still have a long way to go. When we started implementing the reforms that I've talked to you over the last 3 years about, we had about 7,400 kids in state custody. Now we're over 11,000. So even though we've poured in a lot more money, we're trying to give raises to the caseworkers who are on the front line dealing with these people who are sometimes making $28,000 a year to put themselves in these dangerous circumstances. We are addressing them. We are giving them Actually, we're on a better track than we promised in the Pinnacle plan. But the problem has been exacerbated and the money has been spread thinner with more people. So I pledge to you, and I think Representative Nelson doesn't even need to pledge, you know he's there. We're going to continue to see that through the remainder of my tenure. As long as you send me there and as long as my family allows me to go, I'm going to keep a watch over that and try to continue to make sure that we improve that system. These kids are among the most vulnerable in our population. They have a chance to be the transformational generation in their families if we can get in there and actually get them with a foster parents that show them what love is and show them what unconditional love is. And I believe strongly in it. Safe families was an issue I was going to talk about, but Jason's already addressed that. I am so happy that Tim Tardy-Bono is back in Oklahoma. He's helped with some pro-family legislation already. He's already making an impact. Somebody from your community who's at the Capitol in a very reasonable voice, who has good data to back it up. He's been instrumental in several pieces of legislation that we passed this year. So Tim, thank you for coming back. I know you can make a lot more money in Washington, D.C. doing other things, but your heart is here, and I appreciate that you're back. But we have, one of the questions that Jill asked us to do was, what were the most important pieces of legislation you passed into law this year? I passed 34 bills, if you count the House and Senate bills that I was the author on in the law. That's way too many bills. I'm going to focus much more narrowly next time, next section. I feel like 34 bills is asinine. Some of those bills come with my chairmanship of extending sunsets on some of the state agencies, medical examiners, that type of, not medical examiners, medical doctors, those type of things that you just have to do every 4 or 6 years. But I want to really hone in and look at some true government reform issues next year. I have passed some government reform measures out of the Senate that I haven't carried through to fruition in the House, and I look forward to working with some of my counterparts next year on that. But beyond safe families and beyond getting more money to DHS to try to solve the problems, I was the Senate, I wasn't even the author, I was the co-author, but I ran the bill through committee and on the floor. And many people disagree with me, but we are going to actually fix the Capitol. I think we have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers of the state of Oklahoma to take care of this critical asset. And for too long, we've neglected it. And the longer we neglect it, the more expensive it's going to be. So I am very happy to have been the person who passed it through. I've fought almost every bond since I've been at the state Capitol. But this is one that I co-authored, I ran, and it's about time that we owe it to the taxpayers to take care of an asset that you have invested in. So thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to questions.